Hi, welcome to Gene Rants. I'm Gene, and today I'll be living up to the title of this vlog, Gene Rants, because I really have something to rant about. It's one of the things that I really have Trump, I think he's cruising for a bruising with the Supreme Court on tariffs. And, let's start right with his headline. This is what really got me going. This is from this morning. Trump renews threat to impose 100% tariff on movies made outside the U.S. President Trump announced Monday he is imposing a 100% tariff on movies made outside the U.S. Our movie-making business has been stolen from the United States of America by other countries, just like stealing candy from a baby, the president posted on his Truth Social platform. Trump did not specify when the tariff would be imposed. It is also unclear how the administration will calculate the value of a film and show how the directive would apply to movies that partially film overseas. And the question that I have, what about, what if you're doing a movie about doing a biography of the Pope, let's say, and or a documentary on the Catholic Church, and you get permission to film in the Vatican? So Trump is saying 100% tariff if you film in the movie in the Vatican. You're supposed to build a set, and you're supposed to duplicate the Vatican on set in Hollywood. I mean, it is just absurd, and it's just the latest absurdity with these tariffs. And it's just movies. A lot of movies are being filmed in Vancouver and being filmed in England. That's been going on for a long time. But people overseas also film movies here. But it's a matter of it's this idea that these other countries are stealing. I mean, oh my God, Game of Thrones, having to film Game of Thrones all the way, all of it in the United States. That say you have these ancient castles and all kinds of ancient sites. It's that kind of a movie, right? And it's a fantasy, but that's the setting it is. It's kind of a medieval setting. You have Europe. Yeah, that's where the Dark Ages was in Europe before hundreds of years before there even was a United States. We don't have any old sites like that. So I guess Hollywood has to build everything, or Lord of the Rings, any of that stuff, those kind of movies, they have to all be made in the United States at incredible expense. And it's already more expensive, with unions and everything. And that's why they're filming overseas. And there's his whole idea. Trump is using this emergency international emergency act that allows him to supposedly impose tariffs in an emergency. So you can see that for, say, aluminum and steel. Those are vital for rare earths. Those are vital for our national defense. So if we have a shortage of those, or if we have to depend on suppliers overseas, then I can see that that's a problem. But movies, for God's sakes, there's if they do a third, or would it be a fourth remake episode of Sex and the City, I'm supposed to be that. If that does it, that's a national emergency. So he's just getting absurd with these tariffs, and frankly, I am really tired of it. Hardly a day goes by. Well, it goes all the way back to the beginning when, by the way, little aside, fire Peter Navarro. That's, we'll get back to him in a moment. But getting back to, Trump starts out with this, remember that day, Liberation Day, which is really, it's the opposite of, it's Subjugation Day of us to sales tax. That's what a tariff is. It is a tax. It's funny. Benjamin Franklin famously said, the only sure things in life are death and taxes. Well, apparently he was wrong, that death is a sure thing, as I'm becoming increasingly aware as the years go by. And you will too, you young people who sometimes want to kid me about my age. Hey, you're going to be there too. You're going to be there soon enough. You'd be surprised how fast the years are going to go by. But getting back to what I was talking about is that Trump holds up this chart. You remember that Liberation Day, and these are taxes. It just drives me crazy when he says that all this, we never got a dime. We never got I guess he says a dime. We never got a dime from China. Now we're getting billions of dollars. No, 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 no. Sorry. We are paying, tariffs are paid by the importer. And I was so disappointed to see on TV Scott Besson, who apparently has drunk the Kool-Aid, saying the same thing, that because overseas suppliers, exporters to us, are lowering some of their prices, cutting their profit margins to offset the tariffs, that's the same thing as us paying the tariffs. And number one, that's wrong. And number two, those price reductions are not totally offsetting the tariffs. Walmart has said that they're trying to hold back price increases. Ford Motor Company said that it's cost them $2 billion, the tariffs so far. On and on it goes. And Besson actually said he pretty much accused all those companies of lying. So no, they're just using that as an excuse, and that is just wrong. But now you have, tariffs are a tax, and this is where I think the Supreme Court is going. We're going to have a bit of a mess here, because I think what Trump is doing is unconstitutional. Now, I understand there are other things, such as Section 302. I have to review this section. I probably should have done it before. It'll be another vlog. If it really doesn't matter unless Trump uses that to reimpose tariffs. If Supreme Court strikes them down, that doesn't end the tariffs. So he can go do what he should have done in the first place. Trump, go to Congress and ask for the power. Ask Congress to increase the tariffs, and then if it's legislation, Trump can sign the bill. If it's not legislation, then Congress can just do it and stop. And just ask for one-time tariffs, not this every day coming up with a new tariff and saying, well, and now on pharmaceuticals, a 100% increase on pharmaceuticals. Now that's another thing where I could say that there's for certain life-saving drugs that we should not have to depend on China. They're the main producer for these drugs, and I can see a case there. But there are other, I don't know where if aspirin is being produced overseas, I don't see a tariff on aspirin, because aspirin, it's not an emergency. But if you want to get people back, well, Trump has the power. See, he can just say, well, we're not going to allow, say, Germany, we're not going to allow you to sell any cars into our country unless you do blah, 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 blah. That he can do that. That is not imposing a tariff. But I think the Supreme Court, there is a case going to the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, it won't be argued until December, which would mean a decision would probably come in the summer. So we're going to have to deal with this tariff nonsense for a while. And then he, as Scott Besson correctly said, what is if the Supreme Court strikes it down, that you never know. I mean, you got three liberals, and you may have a case where the liberals will side with Trump, because it means a Democrat president, future Democrat president, would be able to impose tariffs, say, on gun manufacturers overseas, if there are any, or things like that, things that Democrats don't like, and so they may vote, and then you'd have the conservatives vote the other way, because you have people like justices like John Roberts, who, as we saw with Obamacare, will try to figure a way to not get a hostile editorial in the New York Times or whatever, or will try to work with the president to, basically that's it, work with Obama to save Obamacare, and maybe work with Trump to come up with some cockamamie logic that would allow Trump to keep the tariffs. But if they do the right thing, I would guess that my prediction would be, which could be wrong, would be that the Supreme Court would strike it down. And then Scott Bessent, on the one thing that he would be right about, maybe, I don't know if the Supreme Court could do this, say, okay, these are unconstitutional, but we will allow the tariffs, the money that, allow the government, the Treasury, to keep the money that has been paid so far, up to the date of the ruling, as opposed to, as I think Besson is right, if you rule strictly according to the Constitution, government is going to have to return all those hundreds of billions of dollars that Trump is bragging about. He'll have to return them, and where is he going to return them? Oh, China is paying the tariffs. Oh, so he's going to send all this money back to China? No, he's going to send it back to the people who actually paid it, to Walmart and to Walmart, to the car manufacturers, and to I don't know how he does it, but to if I paid I don't know, 50 cents more for something that was made in China, then I have 50 cents coming to me from the federal government, if you want to be technical about it. So as I say, a real big mess, because Trump, he's got this thing about tariffs. When he came, he wasn't elected. I mean, I didn't vote for him on the issue of tariffs, number one, and it was not a big deal. He's doing what Obama did with healthcare, where Obama gave absolutely no indication that he was going to try to force onto us, and that's another failure we're dealing with. We're going to have to deal with Obamacare. But once he got into office, and the same thing with Trump, I wasn't expecting that with tariffs and what he did say about tariffs. My understanding was that the purpose of raising the tariffs would be to force other countries, exporters to us, to lower theirs, and then we would lower ours accordingly. In other words, he uses this word all the time, but you don't hear it anymore, reciprocity, where the tariffs would be identical on both sides. And they are, that's not what he's doing. It should be, okay, Germany, okay, we have a 2.5% tariff. You have on cars. You have a 10% tariff on our cars. So we're raising ours to 10%, not to 30 or 40, to 10%. The same as yours are going to be legal. But if you lower yours to, ideally 2%, then we'll take ours back down to 2%. Why don't we just make it zero? Which, by the way, is what the tariff was. Of Japan's tariffs on American cars going to Japan, they lowered it to zero. And so there is no tariffs. But Trump, he's got a problem. Oh, they don't. He actually said this. They won't take our cars. They won't take our cars. Well, why are they required to take our cars? That's not the same thing as saying they put a tariff on our cars. They won't take. They're basically saying the Japanese are not buying our cars, and I don't blame them. They don't. If you're Japan, you have to understand about Japan. They are like England. They drive on the left side of the road, and the steering wheels are therefore on the right side of the cars. So they don't want left side drive cars. They need a steering wheel on the right. Now, same thing, they're making cars, Japan, and for their own market, they make cars that have the steering wheel on the right side. They make cars, the steering wheels on the left side, for us and for the rest of the world. And for them, it makes sense, because there is a huge market for left side steering wheel cars all over the world. But for us, it's the opposite. You're asking the Ford Motor Company to set aside, to make a special production line or do whatever, make right-hand drive cars just for Japan and I guess England, for a much smaller market. Does that make economic sense? So, and plus, Japan, they have narrower roads, as I understand. So they just want. Well, that's why in the 70s, this when the Japan really started selling to us in the 74, the oil embargo, oil prices shot way up. I was living in Detroit at the time, my hometown, and these big American cars, they weren't selling because of the mileage. They're real gas guzzlers. So suddenly these little Japanese cars became popular. Now the same thing, the same logic, applies that the logic is that there is more profit in large cars than in small cars. So that's why car makers here, they would tend to make larger cars, and when gas was cheap, it was okay. People would buy them, and the profits were higher. If you make a smaller car, the profit is smaller. So there was not any incentive to make small cars, but that's what Japan wants. So again, America would have to make a lot of small cars for the Japanese market. So you see the problem there, and that's why Japan could have a zero tariff on our cars, because they didn't have to worry about our cars coming in and competing with them. Because I mean, if I were Japan, they're putting this. Okay, well, you want us to take your cars? Well, here's what we're going to do. Okay, well, the Japanese government will buy. You tell us how many cars to buy. The Japanese government, just to keep peace with the United States, you tell us how many cars to buy. We'll buy them. The Japanese government will pay for them, and we'll dump them in the ocean. Okay, so you get to sell your cars, but we can't. There's no sense importing them into Japan because we don't want them. The Japanese people won't buy them. And by the way, the same thing is happening in Japan to the Japanese cars. A fact you probably don't know, but Toyota in Japan has half of the automobile market in Japan. So all the other Japanese car makers, I don't know, however many they are, they have trouble too. They can't competing. Toyota has half the market, and then the rest of them, they have to fight each other for half of the Japanese market. But Trump wants to. He's putting he was supposed to be a free trader. That's what I was expecting and hoping for. That's what people said he was. So the idea is get the tariffs down to zero. But then he says, I'm going to have a 10 or 15%. Well, we'll say 10, whatever it is. We're going to have, say, a 10% tariff on everything coming into our country. If every other country in the world lowers their tariffs to zero, so there are no tariffs, we're still going to have a 10% tariff on cars coming into our country, which we will pay, not the exporter. So how does that? I am just really praying, as much as the havoc is going to cause, and as much as it's going to damage Trump, and it's going to hurt him. Well, in one way, it'll help him because we'll have a better economy. Will be better. People will have better choices, but all he has to do at the end of the day is go to Congress, sit down with Congress, and say, I want tariffs on this, that, or the other thing, and then Congress can, if Congress wants to, and remember his party the Republicans control Congress, and I don't see Democrats, a whole lot of Democrats voting against a tariff that if it's targeted right and done for the right purpose to help American workers. Democratic Party, I can't believe they're supposed to be the party of the workers, for the workers. So I would expect them to do it, to go with it too. And that's what Trump can do. He can just go to Congress and well, I guess I'm all ranted out for today, but it's there was one last thing. I just remember what it was. And if he does go to Congress, and I am the majority leader in the Senate, and if I am the Speaker of the House, I will say, before we even talk to you, Donald Trump, President Trump, you have to fire Peter Navarro, because he's the root of all this. He's like the Rasputin of economic advisors I consider him. He's a quack economist, and he's an academic, never had to operate in the real world, and it's his theories that are driving all this. They happen to coincide with Donald Trump. So I would say we're going to do things differently, and all the tariffs will originate, if there are to be any, will originate in Congress. There is no reason for Peter Navarro, if he's going to be whispering in your ear, that's unacceptable. We don't want him there. You have to fire Peter Navarro. And that's it for today, definitely. So thanks for stopping by, listening to me rant. If you have your own rant, I have a comment. I don't know. Well, it's called the comment section, but it can be the ranting section below this, below the video. You could subscribe. That would really be great. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I'd love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.